Just finished watching episode 74 of Beyond the Gates, and here are some of the sultry moments I think you should know about. Chelsea and Madison, along with Joey and Vanessa, have sex at the end of the episode. And shout out to those actors who really built that sexual tension in all of their scenes. It was the inevitable end that we all saw coming. So the date with Chelsea and Madison is very realistic of how a lot of dates go for us LGBTQ plus folks. Many of the questions they asked, like, are you out? How'd your family take it? Those are all questions that I've asked on a first date. And, thankfully, I've been on dates with guys who've had kind of similar stories like Madison where, their parent doesn't accept it and is trying to hook them up with people they aren't clearly not interested in. Thankfully, that never happened to me. My family, they were always accepting of me. But, that is just like something we talk about on first dates. And then, of course, the sex scene. We love seeing black and brown queer representation and women and cisgender women. We love it all. We love seeing the representation on daytime television. And I hope someone is getting to see this that needs to see this on TV to say, hey, that could be me. And that's okay. I love that. And then also, we love a domineering woman. I think that's a word. A domineering, whatever. We love Vanessa. And she gave Joey an ultimatum. She said, my business is the reputable business, not yours. And you would not have gone through all this trouble putting my husband in debt to the tune of $250,000. I'm not going to say $50,000. Sorry. You wouldn't have went through all this trouble. Okay, I'm going to do it. $250,000, which, if you know math, is
$50,000
times 5. So she tells Joey, you need my help. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to cancel all of Doug's debt, and we're going to get a commission for everything we do for you. So I'm going to get 12%, and Doug's going to get 6% for all the crap you put him through. And she has this perfect line. I'm unfaithful, not disloyal. And I just love how she took control of the situation. And whenever they had sex, she flipped him around and she was pushing him on the table. And I don't love that they're getting involved in a criminal act, but I love that she knew that she had the upper hand. I mean, she even said, if you don't want to do this deal, I can talk to the lottery office because I know people there. And I'm sure the media would be interested in this. And I'm sure police would be interested in knowing what was going on here. And so well played, Vanessa, well played. Derek and Ashley, I think yesterday I said, this just feels out of the blue, what's going on? They literally imploded. And, Naomi had a scene with Andre where she said, I think Derek getting hurt kind of moved them along in a direction that they probably should not have gone in. Emotions were high, so he moved in with her quickly. And I get the idea that there were already fissures, cracks, whatever, fissures, Fissures. It's a word, fissures, not Fisher's Price. Come on now. I think there were already cracks in their relationship, right? And I think we are seeing the implosion of said relationship because they were just trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. It just doesn't work. And then, of course, who swoops in at Uptown with some food for Ashley? Andre. Of course Andre does, because he likes unavailable, emotionally distraught women, because that's just who he is. There's a lot of people like that in the real world. And yeah, we're going to see how that plays out. But I feel like we've seen some scenes in the preview ahead where he ends up at her house. Maybe it's just a dream, TBD. And speaking of a dream, we are led to believe that Martin is hallucinating about the man who's a busboy whispering in his ear, let me see what color your money is. He confronts him and he's like, no, I was just seeing if you wanted your check, but you didn't say anything. He tells his grandfather, I thought he said that. I could have sworn he said it. We also find out this happened 2 years ago. So it's not like something he did forever ago. And apparently they paid off the victim in this case, and he left the country. And Vernon says he has someone keeping tabs on him. I can only assume that's Bill, but we know how that turns out whenever Bill is supposed to be keeping tabs on someone that he's ran out of town, aka Dana Leslie. And at the very end of the episode, Martin turns around and pushes this man up against the wall and demands to know what he knows or why he was whispering in his ear. Also, we find out that Marcel Malone knows what happened that night. Smitty has been assigned to do this puff piece on Marcel Malone, but quickly we realize either Smitty is going rogue and doing something that his editors told him not to do, or they are trying to do an investigative piece connecting Marcel Malone to Joey. There are several scenes where Joey is shown in a picture of Marcel, which Smitty has, and Marcel's with his boat, Sheila Ducksworth. And Smitty says, "Do you know Joey Armstrong?" And he says, "No." And Smitty's like, "Well, that's odd because you guys are in the same yacht club." And then he makes another connection to a case that wasn't solved, and the guy who had an alibi, who probably committed the murder, still is on Joey's payroll. But Marcel quickly realizes this is not an interview about his career. It's a setup of some sort, which ethically, I don't like that. You know, if you are going in to do an investigation, you're very clear and upfront about it. There are ways to get records and files without having to trick someone into doing a puff piece. But that's just the journalist in me who has been a journalist for 10 and a half years talking. And Marcel cuts it short and says, "You know what? I'm going to go. Yeah, you had an hour, but nah, we're not doing this." But before he left, he said, "You shouldn't throw stones from a glass house." And of course, that perks Smitty's ears up because he's like, "What are you talking about?" And Marcel says, "You're the investigative reporter. You can figure it out," which we know. Marcel knows what Martin did. And he knows that Smitty's connected to Martin. He said, "You are a Dupree grandson-in-law." So Marcel knows who he is playing with. Tomorrow, I'll be interviewing Smitty, Mr. Mike Manning, on Instagram Live. So be sure you are watching. It is at 6 p.m. Eastern, dinner time for folks over on the East Coast, or 3 p.m. here on Pacific time. I'm going to be talking to him about representation in daytime TV, what other projects he's working on, why it's so important to have that representation, and anything else we decide to talk about.